Well, hello. Today we're going to be making some ribs. Now this recipe, you have to start it one day, let it marinate overnight, and then you cook it the next day. So we have just a few ingredients for our marinade. Obviously we have our ribs, we have sazon, we have adobo, we have oregano, we have salt, we have some apple cider vinegar, and we have some olive oil as well as some garlic. It's going to be easy to prepare. Once we have the marinade prepared, we can put it in the fridge and let our ribs sit overnight with the marinade. So let's go ahead and start the process. So what we're going to do first, we've got 8 garlic cloves here, and we're going to take them and mash them into this cup. Now we're going to add about a tablespoon of oregano, and a tablespoon of salt, and a tablespoon of adobo, and a packet of sazon. And now we're going to add 3 to 4 tablespoons of olive oil. You can adjust the mixture depending on what you see inside here. If it doesn't look like it's enough, then you can add more. Next, we're going to have 2 tablespoons of apple cider vinegar. Stir up the mixture so that it becomes like a thick sauce. Now comes the easiest part. We just have to take our mixture and pour it all over our ribs here. Then just rub the mixture into the meat. Just like playing with finger paints or Play-Doh when you're a kid. It's very messy. Now all we have to do is cover our tray with aluminum foil and just put it in the refrigerator overnight. Alright, so now it's the next day and our ribs have been marinated. So we're going to take them and we're going to put them in our oven. We're going to set the oven for 200 degrees and we're going to let our ribs cook for about 2 hours, checking on it periodically. Now you're probably wondering why I have this beer here. Because we're going to add part of the beer and part water into the ribs to keep them moist. And it's not on the ribs, but on the bottom of the pan that we have the ribs in. So let's go ahead and grab our ribs that are ready to go. Whew, that smells really good. So, here's what we're gonna do. Gonna take a little bit of beer, gonna fill this halfway up and add water to the rest and pour it along the sides. We're trying to keep our ribs moist. And before we put our ribs in, we need to flip them over so that the meat is facing downward. Now cover up the ribs. We're gonna go ahead and put them in the oven. We're gonna let them sit in the oven, cook for about 2 hours, checking periodically to see if we need to add more beer and water to keep them moist. Now, as we wait for our ribs to cook, we're gonna go ahead and make our barbecue sauce for the ribs. And we have a couple ingredients here that we're gonna use to make our barbecue sauce. So let's get started on making our barbecue sauce. First, we're gonna add our Stubbs Original Barbecue Sauce. Then, we're gonna add about 2 to 3 shots of our Knob Creek Smoked Maple Bourbon Whiskey. Then we're gonna add a tablespoon of honey, and then we also add a tablespoon of brown sugar. And then we're gonna add a little bit salt to taste. Turn the heat on to about like a little above medium. Stir our mixture up as we cook it. And periodically you can take a little taste to see if, according to your preference, if you wanna add a little more salt, a little more honey or brown sugar, or even a little more of this. This is pretty good. So now we're going to continue to cook this. Just needed a little drink. Now we're just going to set this to low and let it simmer. And let's go ahead and check our ribs to see how they're doing. Just lift up the aluminum foil a little bit. See if there's still liquid at the bottom. If there is, then we're good and we can go ahead and put the ribs back into the oven for another hour. If not, then go ahead and add a little bit more of the beer and the water mixture. After this is pretty much cooked really well and the alcohol is cooked and only the flavor remains, you could turn it off from low and just turn it off and keep the lid on to keep the heat on. We will put this sauce on our ribs when it's done. So now that our ribs are ready, let's take them out of the oven. Smell good already. We're gonna go ahead and take this aluminum foil and set it to the side. And we're gonna take our just finished ribs and our barbecue sauce and start to lather this. Make sure you lather both sides of the ribs. Be generous. Well, there you have it. My ribs are ready. I think I'm gonna have to go serve myself some ribs and have to try them out. Well, dinner is served. I've gone ahead and paired my ribs with some baked beans and a little Hawaiian bread, and I'll be washing it down with my maple whiskey. So it's dinner time. I'm gonna go ahead and start eating this. If I can figure out how to eat it without messing up my beautiful beard. I think I'll see you guys later. This is gonna get messy.